Think you know everything about that tropical island paradise? The iconic sets where 7 stranded castaways spent 3 seasons actually hide bizarre production secrets, impossible filming conditions, and connections you'd never expect. From parking lots to presidential tragedies, the real story behind those bamboo huts is stranger than any episode plot. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about the Gilligan's Island set. Fact 1. The lagoon doubled as a parking lot. Here's something that sounds like it couldn't possibly be true, but it absolutely was. The iconic lagoon where Gilligan and the other castaways spent so much time fishing, swimming, and getting into various misadventures wasn't just a set piece that sat idle between filming seasons. CBS Studio Center had a practical solution for what to do with this massive water feature when the cameras weren't rolling. During the show's off-season, the production crew would completely drain the lagoon of all its water, and the empty basin would be converted into an employee parking lot. Workers would drive their cars right into the same space where Bob Denver had been splashing around in his red shirt and white pants just months before. When it was time to start filming a new season of Gilligan's Island, the studio would reverse the process, filling the lagoon back up with water and transforming the parking area back into a tropical paradise. This practical reuse of the space made perfect sense from a studio perspective, since the backlot real estate was valuable, and leaving a large empty pool sitting unused for months at a time would have been wasteful. The lagoon served double duty throughout the show's 3-season run from 1964 to 1967, switching back and forth between its role as a television set and its more mundane function as a place for CBS employees to park their vehicles. It's a strange reminder that even the most magical-looking television locations have to serve practical purposes when the production wraps. Fact 2. Freezing water required hidden wetsuits. When you watch Gilligan's Island, you probably imagine the cast filming in warm tropical conditions that matched the show's sunny setting, but the reality was far less comfortable. The lagoon at CBS Studio Center was completely unheated, and because Gilligan's Island filmed during the fall and winter months in Los Angeles, the water temperature regularly dropped to around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold enough to make anyone miserable, especially when you're required to jump in repeatedly for multiple takes of the same scene. Bob Denver, who played the title character and spent more time in the water than any other cast member, faced this uncomfortable situation day after day during production. To deal with the freezing conditions, Denver came up with a practical solution that viewers at home never noticed. He wore a wetsuit underneath his iconic Gilligan costume, which consisted of red, long-sleeved shirt, white bell-bottom pants, and a white sailor hat. The wetsuit provided insulation against the cold water and allowed him to film his scenes without suffering from hypothermia or extreme discomfort. The costume department had to carefully fit his regular clothing over the wetsuit so that nothing looked unusual or bulky on camera, maintaining the illusion that Gilligan was simply wearing his normal clothes while wading through a warm tropical lagoon. This hidden layer of protection became a necessary part of Denver's wardrobe for any episode that required him to take an unexpected tumble into the water or participate in one of the many aquatic mishaps that were central to the show's physical comedy. Fact 3. 4 different boats played the SS Minnow. Most television shows try to maintain visual consistency when it comes to important props, but Gilligan's Island took a surprisingly casual approach to one of its most recognizable elements. The SS Minnow, the charter boat that carried the 7 castaways to their fateful island home, was actually played by 4 completely different boats throughout the series, and the production team made little effort to ensure they looked alike. The first boat was rented from Ala Yacht Harbor in Honolulu and appeared in the opening credits of the first season, showing the passengers boarding for their 3-hour tour. The second boat was purchased specifically to be damaged for the pilot episode, then towed all the way from Honolulu to Kauai, where it was deliberately smashed with sledgehammers on Moloa Beach to create the shipwrecked appearance seen in the show. When the series moved to color for seasons 2 and 3, a third boat called the Blue Jacket was used for the new opening credits filmed at Marina del Rey in California, and this vessel looked noticeably different from the previous versions. The fourth boat was simply a large prop constructed by CBS Studios and placed on fiberglass rocks at the backlot lagoon for various scenes throughout the color episodes. None of these boats matched each other in terms of size, design, or overall appearance, creating obvious continuity errors that sharp-eyed viewers could spot if they paid close attention. The production apparently decided that audiences wouldn't care too much about these inconsistencies, and they were probably right, since the show's charm came from its characters and comedy rather than strict attention to visual details. Fact 4. A confused bystander watched them destroy a real boat. One of the most amusing behind-the-scenes moments from Gilligan's Island happened during the filming of the pilot episode on Moloa'a Beach in Kauai, and it involved a very confused local resident who witnessed something that must have looked absolutely bizarre. The production team needed to create the appearance of a shipwrecked boat for the show, so they purchased a real vessel that no longer had a working engine and had it towed from Honolulu to Kauai specifically for this purpose. Once the boat was positioned on the beach, series creator Sherwood Schwartz supervised as workmen began taking huge sledgehammers and smashing large holes into the sides of the boat to make it look properly damaged and wrecked. While Schwartz was watching this deliberate destruction to make sure the holes were big enough and in the right places, an elderly Japanese gentleman happened to walk by and stopped to observe what was happening. The man approached Schwartz with a genuinely puzzled expression and asked why they were destroying what appeared to be a perfectly good boat, clearly unable to understand the reasoning behind such wasteful behavior. Schwartz later recalled that he had to suppress his laughter because the man's confusion was presented with such calm logic and reason, and Schwartz didn't want the gentleman to think he was being ridiculed. After Schwartz explained that they were intentionally damaging the boat for a television show and needed to make absolutely certain it couldn't float, the man considered this explanation for a moment, shrugged his shoulders, and walked away, still mystified by the peculiar behavior of this strange group of people. Fact 5. Traffic noise, constantly interrupted, filming. The supposedly deserted tropical island where Gilligan and his fellow castaways were stranded had a persistent and very modern problem that constantly disrupted production. The Lagoon set at CBS Studio Center was built on the backlot in Studio City, California, and its location turned out to be less than ideal for creating the illusion of a remote island paradise. The Lagoon sat approximately half a mile away from the 101 freeway, which was close enough that the sounds of cars, trucks, and rush hour traffic could clearly be heard during filming. This proximity to a major Los Angeles freeway created significant challenges for the production crew, who needed to record clean audio for each scene without the intrusive background noise of modern civilization bleeding into what was supposed to be an uninhabited island setting. The traffic noise was so disruptive that it resulted in huge delays throughout the filming schedule, as the crew would have to stop recording and wait for the sounds to die down before they could continue shooting scenes. The problem was particularly bad during morning and evening rush hours when traffic volume was at its peak, which meant the production team had to carefully plan their shooting schedule around Los Angeles commute patterns. As a result, filming at the Lagoon location couldn't begin before 9 o'clock in the morning, when the morning rush hour traffic had finally subsided enough to allow for usable audio recording. This practical limitation affected the entire production workflow and served as a constant reminder that despite all the tropical plants and carefully constructed sets, the castaways were actually filming just a short distance from one of California's busiest highways. Fact 6. JFK's assassination appears in Season 1 opening credits. A somber piece of American history became permanently embedded in the opening credits of Gilligan's Island's first season due to the timing of the pilot episode's filming schedule. The production team had been shooting the pilot on the island of Kauai in Hawaii throughout November of 1963, and they scheduled the final day of filming for November 23rd at Honolulu Harbor, where they planned to capture scenes of the SS Minnow embarking on its fateful 3-hour tour. However, on November 22nd, late in the morning Hawaii time, a crew member rushed to the set with devastating news that he had just heard on the radio. President John F. Kennedy had been shot in Dallas, Texas. The cast and crew spent the rest of that day crowded around radios between filming scenes, listening to news bulletins as the tragic events unfolded. Following Kennedy's death, President Lyndon Johnson ordered that the American flag be flown at half-mast at all military installations across the country, including Honolulu Harbor, as a sign of national mourning. The harbor was subsequently closed for the next 2 days, which forced the production to delay their final shooting day. When filming finally resumed and the crew captured the footage of the SS Minnow leaving the harbor, an American flag can be seen flying at half-mast in the background of the shot. This footage was used in the opening credits throughout the entire first season, creating a subtle but poignant reminder of the national tragedy that occurred during the show's production, visible to anyone who looks carefully at approximately 22 seconds into the opening sequence. Fact 7. The cast proved the water was toxic with a live fish. The lagoon water at CBS Studio Center presented ongoing health and safety concerns that the network executives were initially reluctant to address, which led to a dramatic demonstration by 2 of the show's stars. Because the lagoon wasn't heated, filtered, or properly maintained during the summer months when Gilligan's Island was on hiatus, the water would sit stagnant and uncovered for extended periods of time. This lack of care caused the water to become increasingly foul-smelling and unpleasant, developing an offensive odor that made it clear something was seriously wrong with the water quality. The cast members who were required to film scenes in this lagoon understandably became concerned about the safety of working in such contaminated conditions, but their complaints to the network were met with hesitation about the cost and effort involved in draining and refilling such a large body of water. Bob Denver, who played Gilligan, and Alan Hale Jr., who played the skipper, decided they needed to prove just how unsafe the water had become in a way that the network executives couldn't ignore. The 2 actors obtained a live fish and placed it into the lagoon water while people watched, intending to demonstrate the poor water quality in the most direct way possible. The fish died almost immediately after being put into the water, providing undeniable proof that the lagoon was too toxic to support even basic aquatic life. Faced with this dramatic evidence that their actors were being asked to work in genuinely hazardous conditions, the network executives finally agreed to take action and drain the contaminated water, then refill the lagoon with fresh water before filming resumed. Fact 8. The lagoon was only 4 feet deep. The lagoon on Gilligan's Island looked like a substantial body of water where the castaways could fish, swim, and navigate around their tropical home, but the reality behind this illusion was far less impressive than what appeared on television screens. The entire lagoon that was constructed at CBS Studio Center measured only 4 feet at its deepest point, which is barely deep enough for an average adult to stand in with their head and shoulders above water. This surprisingly shallow depth meant that any actor who appeared to be swimming or diving in the lagoon was actually just wading through what amounted to little more than a large wading pool. The production team relied heavily on clever camera work and careful framing to create the illusion that the lagoon was much larger and deeper than it actually was, positioning cameras at low angles and shooting from perspectives that made the water appear to stretch out into the distance. The cinematographers avoided wide shots that might reveal the true scale of the artificial lagoon and instead focused on closer angles that emphasized the actors and their immediate surroundings rather than the full scope of the water feature. This technique of using selective camera placement allowed the show to maintain the illusion of a genuine tropical bay without the enormous expense and logistical challenges that would have come with building a much larger and deeper body of water on a studio backlot. The shallow depth also had practical benefits for the production, making it safer for actors who had to perform physical comedy and stunts in the water, and easier for crew members to retrieve equipment or props that accidentally fell in during filming. Fact 9. 2 different islands served as Gilligan's Island. The iconic image of the distant island that appeared in the opening title sequence of Gilligan's Island was actually not one consistent location, but rather 2 completely different islands that were swapped out between seasons. During the first season, which was filmed in black and white, the production team used footage of Sandy Cay, a small 3-acre island located near the Bahamas in the Caribbean Sea. This distant island shot was superimposed with the show's title card and appeared as the establishing shot meant to represent the uncharted desert isle where the castaways were stranded. When Gilligan's Island transitioned to color, filming for its second season, the producers decided they needed new opening credit footage that would take advantage of the color format and replace the black and white sequences. For this updated version, they chose an entirely different island called Coconut Island, also known by its Hawaiian name Moku'oloe, which is located in Kaneohe Bay on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. Coconut Island covers 28 acres and looks noticeably different from Sandy Cay in terms of size, shape, and overall appearance. This new footage of Coconut Island was used throughout seasons 2 and 3, meaning that viewers who watched the entire series saw two geographically distinct islands presented as the same location. The switch from a Caribbean island to a Hawaiian island represented a change of thousands of miles in actual distance, yet the show presented both as the home of the 7 castaways without any acknowledgement of the swap. Interestingly, Coconut Island currently serves as the site of the Hawaiian Institute of Marine Biology. Fact 10. The set was built on historic Republic studios. The tropical lagoon and jungle sets of Gilligan's Island were constructed on a piece of Hollywood real estate that had an incredibly rich history, stretching back to the earliest days of American cinema. The CBS Studio Center lot where the show was filmed was originally built as Republic Studios, one of the most prolific and successful movie studios of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. Republic Studios had been the home of countless westerns starring legendary cowboy actors like Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, and John Wayne, who all got their major breaks working on Republic productions. The studio specialized in B-movies and serials that were churned out quickly and inexpensively, creating a massive library of popular entertainment that shaped American film culture for decades. But the history of this particular piece of land goes back even further than Republic's golden age of westerns. Before Republic took over, the property was originally established in 1928 by Max Sennett, a silent film producer and director who created his studio at the corner of what is now Ventura Boulevard and Radford Avenue in Studio City, California. During the silent film era, some of the biggest stars in Hollywood history worked on this very lot, including comedy legends Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, as well as W.C. Fields and Fatty Arbuckle. CBS Television became the primary lessee of the property in 1963 and eventually purchased it outright in 1967 for $9.5 million. The fact that Gilligan's Island was filmed on the same ground where so many classic westerns and silent comedies were created adds an extra layer of Hollywood history to the show's legacy. Fact 11. All the huts were built indoors. When viewers watched the castaways going about their daily lives in and around their bamboo huts on Gilligan's Island, most probably assumed these scenes were filmed outdoors on a tropical set to match the show's island setting. But the reality was quite different. The iconic bamboo huts and the entire castaway camp area where so many memorable scenes took place were actually constructed completely indoors on sound stages at CBS Studio Center. The production team built elaborate interior sets inside these large sound stages, carefully designing them to look like outdoor tropical structures, complete with thatched roofs made from grass, bamboo walls, and furniture, and all the various details that made the camp feel like an authentic makeshift village on a deserted island. Filming these scenes indoors gave the production crew much greater control over lighting conditions, sound quality, and weather-related concerns that would have made outdoor filming more difficult and unpredictable. The sound stages allowed them to maintain consistent lighting throughout different times of day and eliminated problems like wind, rain, or changing sunlight that could have created continuity errors between shots. This indoor construction also meant the sets could be left standing and used repeatedly without worrying about natural deterioration from actual weather exposure. The only major outdoor filming location was the lagoon itself, which was built on the backlot and remained exposed to the elements. Everything else that appeared to be happening in the open air under tropical skies was actually filmed inside Soundstage Number 2 and other interior spaces at the studio, with careful set design and lighting, creating the convincing illusion of an outdoor island environment that fooled audiences for 3 full seasons. Fact 12. The Lagoon set lasted 33 years before demolition. Of all the physical elements that made up the Gilligan's Island production, the Lagoon proved to be the most enduring piece of the show's legacy at CBS Studio Center. While the bamboo huts and other interior sets were eventually dismantled and replaced with new productions over the years, the Lagoon remained on the backlot long after the show's final episode aired in 1967. The Lagoon structure was built in 1964 when the series began production, and it continued to sit on the CBS property for more than 3 decades after filming wrapped. During those years, the Lagoon was occasionally used for other television productions and movies that needed a water feature for their own filming purposes, giving it a useful second life beyond its Gilligan's Island origins. The Lagoon became the last surviving physical remnant of the original show, outlasting every other set piece and serving as a tangible connection to the beloved series. However, as the studio's needs evolved and space on the valuable backlot became increasingly important for new productions, the decision was finally made to remove this piece of television history. In 1995, the Lagoon was demolished as part of an IOSWA expansion project at the studio, with the entire area being paved over to make room for a new parking structure. This final transformation brought the Lagoon's story full circle in an almost poetic way, since the basin had regularly been drained and used as a temporary parking lot during the show's off-seasons in the 1960s. The space that once served as a fictional tropical paradise ultimately returned to its utilitarian purpose permanently. Fact 13. The same soundstage later housed Mary Tyler Moore and Roseanne. The physical space where Gilligan's Island was filmed had a long and productive life after the show ended, hosting several other iconic television series over the following decades. The same soundstage at CBS Studio Center that had been home to the Castaways' bamboo huts and tropical island adventures was later used to film The Mary Tyler Moore Show, one of the most acclaimed sitcoms of the 1970s, and then, decades after that, it became the filming location for Roseanne, the groundbreaking working-class family sitcom that ran from 1988 to 1997. This connection between Roseanne and Gilligan's Island led to a particularly memorable moment in television history, when the Roseanne production team decided to pay tribute to the show that had once occupied their soundstage. In 1995, Roseanne aired an episode titled Sherwood Schwartz, A Loving Tribute, named after the creator of Gilligan's Island. The episode featured a fantasy sequence where the Roseanne cast members portrayed the Gilligan's Island characters in a parody of the classic show, with Dan becoming the skipper, Roseanne playing Ginger, Jackie taking on the role of Gilligan, and other cast members filling out the remaining parts. The tribute went even further during the closing credits of the episode, when actual surviving cast members from Gilligan's Island made special appearances, with Bob Denver, Tina Louise, Russell Johnson, and Dawn Wells all showing up to play members of the Connor family. This cross-generational moment brought the history of the soundstage full circle and created a unique connection between two very different sitcoms that had shared the same physical space decades apart. Fact 14. A Larry Sanders Show. Set floated in the old Lagoon. During the 1990s, before the Lagoon was finally demolished and paved over, the old Gilligan's Island water feature got one last unexpected use that created a surreal connection between two very different television shows. The Larry Sanders Show, a satirical comedy series about a late-night talk show host that aired on HBO, needed to film a scene for the first episode of their 3rd season, in which the main character Larry escapes to a cabin on a lake in Montana to get away from the pressures of his famous life. Rather than building an entirely new set or filming on location, the production team came up with a creative solution using the resources that were already available on the CBS Studio Center lot. They took an existing set that had been previously built as an old mill for another production and repurposed it to serve as the Montana Lake cabin that the script required. The set was then placed directly in the middle of the old Gilligan's Island Lagoon, which was still filled with water at that time, allowing it to float on the surface and create the appearance of a cabin sitting beside a genuine lake. This meant that the same body of water where Bob Denver had fallen in countless times as the bumbling first mate Gilligan, and where the castaways had fished and splashed around during their 3 seasons of tropical adventures in the 1960s, was now serving as a Montana lake setting for a completely unrelated comedy series 3 decades later, creating an unusual piece of television history that connected 2 shows filmed on the exact same spot. Fact 15. The pilot was filmed days after JFK's death. The production of Gilligan's Island's pilot episode intersected with one of the most tragic moments in American history in a way that cast and crew members would never forget. The pilot had been filming on location in Kauai, Hawaii throughout November of 1963, and the production was nearing completion as they worked through their scheduled shooting days on the island. On November 22, 1963, late in the morning Hawaii time, a crew member came running to the set with shocking news that he had just heard on the radio. President John F. Kennedy had been shot in Dallas, Texas. The cast and crew were in the middle of their filming day when they received this devastating information, and they found themselves in the difficult position of trying to continue their work on a lighthearted comedy series while one of the most significant tragedies in modern American history was unfolding thousands of miles away. Between takes and during breaks in filming, the actors and production staff crowded around radios on the set, listening intently to news bulletins being broadcast from Hawaii as they learned more details about the assassination and its aftermath. Despite the emotional weight of the situation and how incredibly difficult it must have been to focus on comedy during such a somber moment, the production continued filming that day and completed their work on the pilot episode. The surreal experience of shooting scenes for a silly sitcom about castaways on a deserted island while simultaneously processing the news of the president's death created a strange juxtaposition that everyone involved in the production would remember for the rest of their lives.